Joe, welcome to the podcast. Very happy to have you on. You are the founder of Somerce, one of the largest, if not the largest, TikTok shop agency of the UK. But you actually just founded it last year. I'm curious to hear your side of the story and hear how you were able to scale it as quickly as you have now that it's end of 2025 and you're basically being one of the biggest agency out there.
Yeah, so it's not my first rodeo. So I launched an agency when I was in school that I grew to about 30 people. That was doing Facebook ads and performance marketing, working with D2C brands, and then sold that in, I think, 2021 or 2020. And after that business and the earn out, I then helped a couple of brands launch or helped them day to day with marketing, and a couple I actually launched on TikTok Shop very early on, which is probably about 3 years ago now. And to be honest with you, I had no idea what the revenue was or like what this TikTok Shop thing was that we were operating on, but it seemed to be doing good revenue. And that was initially like live shopping. And then in the start of 2023, TikTok launched the TikTok affiliate side of things. And that just like skyrocketed those couple of brands I was working with. We went from doing about 30 grand a month on the platform to 400K. And then after my restrictions were over, I launched Somerce in June of last year, because I just knew that having worked brand side as like fractional CMO, it was very difficult to scale, and you'd work with different ad agencies to try and take it forward from an advertising standpoint, and they didn't really understand it. There was a couple of people who were doing it early on, but clearly didn't have their hand on or finger on the pulse. So I was like, I think we can do a extremely good job. So we launched the business. We managed to get a couple of really good early case studies and kept getting referred. And then, it's been quite a journey since.
Can't imagine. I mean, quite the ride for the last 18 months, I'm sure. And I mean, you said that you basically were able, as soon as you had lifted all the restrictions from your previous acquisitions, to then go launch this agency. Was there any doubt in your mind that that was the suitable next step for you? Were you thinking, okay, maybe it's TikTok, maybe it's something else in the agency space or something else altogether? Or were you so convinced by this early traction that you were like, okay, TikTok or nothing else?
No, I never wanted to launch an agency again.
Traumatized by the first experience.
Yeah. Obviously agency founders know like it's pretty stressful time and type of business. Like I actually had a few other good ideas, but I think it was one of those.
What drew you back in?
It was one of those where the opportunity like to help brands was so huge. And I think like obviously there's so many good Facebook agencies out there, but you shift between different ones. And to be honest with you, like there's not huge like lift that most provide. Like there's a lot of good ones, and you might move to the next person and they might increase your revenue by 10-20%. Sometimes you get a really good case study or performance, sorry. And then with what we'd done with Somerce is it was like when I was doing fractional CMO work, was I could actually provide like huge lift. So like we're talking like millions of annual revenue added on to those brands, and actually almost like changing their lives and their businesses, and taking small businesses and really scaling them. And even now, I mean, we work with some of the biggest, and like that's huge scale for them and a new channel. So I think I saw it as like an opportunity to really do that. But when I launched it, it was only going to be like one of quite a few businesses I was going to launch as well. And then it just grew so quickly in the first like 4 or 5 months. And there was so much demand that I was like, okay, we've just got to focus on this thing now. So
yeah, I could also imagine that with your previous experience working with meta ads, among other things, you also saw the kind of problem that TikTok Shop was solving for brands with like a closed ecosystem, with live shopping. Like a lot of the things that just didn't exist before were suddenly available. And someone with the experience that you had certainly saw that opportunity and could imagine what that could do for brands very early on, right?
Yeah, I think as well, like in that time, like I was very advertising background as well. So I went through the whole iOS updates with like obviously, making measurement more difficult, and TikTok Shop and the advertising side when it was VSAs, PSAs, until sort of January this year. Obviously, you'd create ads on TikTok Shop and they were fully attributed to TikTok. So like where if you ran TikTok ads to web, it's quite unclear what value it drives. There's a lot of discovery that happens that way. But really when it comes to conversion, like they over attribute, as we all know. And you look at it on Triple Whale and it never looks that good. Whereas on TikTok Shop, you could run TikTok Shop ads and literally the conversion rate. I mean, we used to see conversion rates of like 8 to 10% on TikTok Shop in the early days. And I think it was like similar to Amazon, but in the social world. And that's what I think really excited me initially before the likes of like the affiliate and what lives are today.
And for someone who has been scaling an agency as quickly as you have now with Somerce, what were some of the bottlenecks that you came across in the last 18 months? What were things that kept you from growing even quicker?
Good question. I think probably like people resource is always like a big challenge. Like very like proud of what we build and what we deliver, and like I have always wanted to just like keep pushing the bar, but obviously the bigger you get, the harder it is to then recruit and grow. And I think one of the key challenges we have, and I think like anyone in TikTok shop world has, and ultimately that falls down to brands as well, and why there's such a high demand for agency in this space, is that there's not really people with experience. Like I'm probably one of the most experienced operators on TikTok Shop, and that's only like 3 years. And also the platform has changed so much in those 3 years. We hire from like influencer agencies, we hire from paid media agencies and different things like that, and obviously internal brands as well. And we've hired people who have also built brands. So that definitely works, but you're having to do a lot of training, and TikTok's platform changes so often. So I think really like to scale, it always resolves around people for agencies. But we do have like an extremely good training sort of program, and we've got someone dedicated to basically training new people. And like if someone joins us today, like they won't actually like touch an account for a couple of months. So they go through a lot of training and development across a couple of other accounts, and then we put them into the mix.
Yeah, I could totally see how a new industry like TikTok Shop or then social commerce as a whole just doesn't have enough qualified people, and certainly not people with years of working experience in that field, right? Because the whole field is so new. I would
Yeah, it's
then
hard.
also imagine that there's an increase of competition maybe in this field if other maybe brand founders see Somerce doing as well as it does, more and more brands would enter the market. How stiff is that competition right now in the UK, or is there still so much new brands coming on to TikTok Shop that there's basically enough for everyone?
Yeah, I think there's this notion that it's like saturated, but it's so under saturated right now. Like it's still really new, both in the UK and the US. I mean, like I think in the US, the most successful brand did about 18 million pounds, so $24 million, I think, in revenue. And in the UK, it was over 10 million. For a brand we work with. Like that's obviously quite large. But you look at like Amazon and D2C, like there's so much more potential. And we're seeing new brands come onto the platform. Like Dr. Malaxin just launched in the UK, US brand, very successful. I think they're like a top 5 beauty brand over there. And they're doing absolute volumes right now already. So, and again, you've got examples of other like large brands who have come in and just like made impact straight away. So there's definitely like user demand on the platform. And I think like people use the excuse of, oh, it's saturated now and competition, like it's definitely true. But ultimately it's really about how you like continue to innovate and like stay on top of the platform. And I think as long as you stay relevant, you can still win on the platform. And I think a lot of brands are very clever when it comes to like MPD and TikTok shops developing its like CRM functionalities and ways to drive repeat purchases. And we're definitely seeing across mature brands, like they'll see a similar split to Shopify in terms of like repeat customer rate, which is really interesting because you'd think it was just discovery and then people would go elsewhere. But I think users now have found that TikTok, you can get something delivered within a couple of days. You know it's definitely going to get delivered. It's got that kind of trust um, and authenticity there now. So yeah, I think it's a good platform, and definitely there's a lot more room for growth.
It's funny how there's almost always people saying that anything is saturated pretty much as soon as something new comes around, which is hilarious if you think that the platform is just about 3 years old now in the UK. So how on earth could it be saturated? I remember I started making YouTube videos back in 2015 and people were saying, oh, YouTube is so oversaturated. You can't make any money there anymore. So as soon as you do anything, people will say it's saturated. And I think we're seeing the second wave of new, really big, really established brands coming onto the platform that will lead to so much more growth in the future. You have been the agency behind the largest live shopping event in the UK, done by P. Louise. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Can you tell us what went into this event that ended up generating, I think, about £2 million in just one day? What was the preparation like, and what was the actual day like for you as the agency running this?
Yeah, so in terms of like to do something of that scale, like we were launching a whole new product range with Christmas, and like P. Louise has spent absolutely years, probably 10 years now, building an amazing like brand with huge following and love for it, which always helps when you're trying to do a target of that scale. The target was 1 million originally, and our record live before that was about £250,000 in a day, which is still pretty largeable in 12 hours. So we had a good set of products. We had a great brand. And the way that you then go about planning for that is you look at that product set and you start to look at stock, and you look at how much stock we've got, what the pricing is, how we drive urgency. So that's really like the first step is looking at, is it physically possible with that stock to hit the number, and at what price do you sell that stock at for it to, one, drive scale, but two, you get enough for the amount of stock that you've got, which thankfully they had so much that that wasn't really a huge issue. A lot of the stuff was actually on pre-order as well, which is very interesting. So it didn't actually arrive for a couple of months, I think, to the end user, or a month. So then we look at how do you get traffic into the room. So that's what we call like a preheat strategy. So where a lot of people try and leave TikTok as like its own channel, and like they want to run it in silo and not like integrate it. What we did on this one and the other big ones we've done is we integrate into email. We put it out in community chats and all these different channels that P. Louise have. And that then enabled us to sort of build hype up to this live. So that on the day, a lot of the customers then joined. And we also made the theme like so different to anything else we'd done. So obviously it's usually pink, and we made it like a white Christmas. So you would come across it and be like, oh, what's this? And like obviously then increase that click-through rate into the live, what we call enter room rate. Yeah, even down to like promotional plan, presenter plan, we knew exactly who needed to be on when and which hosts perform best together. So it's a very like it was pretty heavy amount of planning. And then obviously, we were driving signups and awareness. And then on the day itself is like we had about 6 people from our team, about 10 people from their team. all to go and deliver that scale. And obviously we did 14 hours, but it was literally nonstop, like stuff changing every 3 to 5 minutes. So yeah, it's pretty intense.
I could imagine. And I mean, how much does a brand then like P. Louise that is established and has experience with these kind of lives as well, let you basically take charge and decide, okay, this is what we think would do best, and this is how we think conversion would do best, this is how we think most people would actually join the lives, and how much do they feel like, okay, actually we have a different point of view and we would like to take our route?
The way we always work is like very integrated. So we always like would start with like kind of like a joint session where we look at what's, especially when it's like we now work with them ongoing as well, so it's a lot more integrated now. But like for that one, it was very much like understanding, what products work, like what are their best presenters, like getting all their thoughts first and just listening and asking questions, and then we will then go away and basically build a full plan that all links back to, like, we heavily work just data driven. So we then would present that back, and they generally, like, in some of the ways we work as well, we'll give options. So like some brands don't like doing heavy discounts, so like we'll propose different options that resolve around that, but we'll always be like option A, option B, option C, and like option B might be the highest GMV. Option A might be like the best to protect brand, but obviously you can have a lower GMV, and option C might be something else. But that really like gives brands like the option to decide what they want to do. So that's the way I always like to work. And I think generally, like, if you have a strong strategy and you work closely with the brands, like, you will get success. I think sometimes people make an error where like they're meant to just be the expert, so like they just lead on it. Or sometimes brands will be like, they will expect that the agency knows everything, but like they've worked in the brand for 10 years. Like, I've been here a week. So I think it's like always important, like as the consultant or agency or advisor, that like you really try and get them involved in the project, because they know their brand, they know their product, they know your customer better than you do. But as a good agency, you know what should work, and what does work from other accounts, albeit we'd only operated at a much smaller scale, but actually they hadn't done a lot of stuff that we tested. So when we deployed that on that brand, it was then like it skyrocketed the results. So
Is profitability then also a main concern in these kind of mega lives, or is it more about brand awareness and the publicity that maybe also comes around breaking such a big record, hitting those numbers? Is it about GMV, as you mentioned, or is it actually possible to have such a large scale event where you have to have the studio, you have to have a big team behind it, all of these expenses, obviously, to then still be profitable with it?
that one was still very profitable. I think like there is a consensus that the mega lives aren't profitable, but there were some issues early days. Like, we had a few events that we used to do like big giveaways on the live of like external prizes. So you might win like a Louis Vuitton bag if you purchase. A few brands still do that. The problem with them is people would buy and then they'd cancel the orders. So the live would be profitable based on your ad spend, your discounting, and like all the considerations you have. But then you go and try and give away a Louis Vuitton bag, which is like maybe a couple of grand straight off the bottom line. I guess you could consider it as a marketing expense. But what that also drives is like you might make £10,000 by doing that, but then a lot of those people cancel if they don't win, because it's like done within like the hour. So like we've stopped all of that now. Like we mainly just do like brand led prizes. So like if you buy in the next hour, you'll win the chance to get X, which was also then like much better for the brand, but also it just keeps it in like that world of the brand as well, which I think is a lot better. And actually, like when we've looked at the data, it doesn't drive, when you consider the returns, it doesn't drive enough incrementality by having those prizes anyway. So, but I mean, the way we always work is like, don't get me wrong, some brands like are VC backed and are gunning for growth, and like they'll say to us, look, we want to run at this contribution margin, and we always just work backwards from there. And that might be they want to be break even, or they might even be like slightly minus or a 5% contribution margin. And then others want to be at like a 20% contribution margin or 25% contribution margin. So we always have to just work around there, where you consider, like, obviously in the UK, VAT, you've got obviously TikTok's fees, you've got affiliate fees, live hosts, and all this different stuff. But we always work that out anyway. And we generally operate it on a product level instead. So we will be like, when we're looking at discounting, we build all of those fees into the product discount, right? Where some people just like do the product discount based on what their max can do, but they won't actually build in TikTok's fees and everything. They build that into like the overall P&L. But like, I always work on like a product level, because if you're discounting a product from like, let's say £30 to £15, well, actually, like, you need to build in all the other figures. And if you just build everything at the product level, it all works itself out anyway. So like, we'll have like a marketing cost of sale and all this stuff built into that. And that's what determines what we drop the price of the bundle to.
I would imagine that with such a mega live and with the goal to break an already existing record on live shopping, TikTok itself as a platform would also be very much interested in pushing you beyond the goal. Were they very involved in this, or did they just let you and P. Louise do what you do best? How much did you benefit from the collaboration with them directly?
TikTok are always like super useful. I mean, they help with like overall awareness. They help in many different ways, like across a lot of our accounts, which is core benefit. Like, how long that will last for, I don't know, but probably not much longer. But even down to like TikTok campaigns where TikTok give co-funded support and like free shipping over £22, which you were fulfilled by TikTok. Yeah, there's a lot of really good benefits that really help to drive that profitability as well. So yeah, they're definitely super useful. I mean, for us, it's been brilliant, and obviously we now work with them going forward as well. So that's been really good for our growth as well. Also, like, we're starting to see like huge scale from our work. So like, we're still doing like huge revenues, and we had, I think it was like third or fourth most successful brand across UK and US, even though it's in the UK. So we're still massively winning and like miles ahead of a lot of the other competition. So that's highly interesting for like when you're looking at the big brands coming into TikTok, and like we understand how to scale to like 10 mil plus and what that looks like, where obviously a lot of others haven't even hit the sort of million yet. So that's quite exciting for next year.
Yeah, I was curious about that actually. I saw that you do work with almost TikTok native brands like P. Louise that aren't just made for TikTok, but then have products that just look exceptionally good, I would say, on short form content as well as live shopping. But then you also work with very established and traditional brands like, for example, L'Oreal, that is not designing their products to look good on social media, let's say. How do those types compare? Do you have to have different approaches for both, or can you say what works for one also works for the other?
I think there's different approaches. Like, retail brands are doing pretty well now in TikTok. It's very much like that problem solution. I mean, unboxing is kind of like not working anymore when it comes to content. Like, we specifically say to brands, like, stop posting, like, don't get your affiliates posting, or stop doing like unboxing videos, because the end user doesn't care about that, especially on TikTok. So like, we'll always say, like, just send it out in the usual box, if that's like a fulfilled by TikTok box or it's your own fulfillment center. Like, don't make the influencer parcel like look really cool in terms of that unboxing experience, unless of course like the end user can then buy that and it's like that PR gifting experience that also the user of TikTok can purchase. So, because you just really want to see like someone using that product. And we looked at like, we work with a deodorant brand, like natural deodorant on TikTok, and we were auditing one of their competitors, and like, against, like, we were looking at ours and why we were successful versus the other people. And ours was like, everyone was using the product, and it was like also like a lot of them, like the best performing piece of content, they were like half used. So like the product was visibly like half empty. Whereas the other brand, like who has really nice packaging, was literally all their videos were just like unboxing experiences. And like they're nowhere near doing anywhere near the volume that the other brand's doing. And it's just because like who cares about the unboxing experience of a deodorant? They want to know like what is the benefit of using that. But the same goes to like skincare. Like skincare brands ultimately, like people want to see that you visibly had a change. So like from this to that, or like they trial like eye creams is a good one where they'll just do like the eye cream on one eye and then the other one they keep the same and you can visibly see the difference. And then people buy that content, or like same with setting spray and a lot of other things. So like we've seen that a lot now, but it's all about like actually showing people the benefit of those products in real time.
So it does depend on the kind of niche that you're in, the industry that you're part of, and then have adequate content and probably also influencers or affiliates that are already positioned in that kind of niche, so it suits their established audience. How do you compare the ROI of, let's say, a affiliate creator campaign with live shopping from the insights that you have as an agency? Are they similar? Is one a lot more profitable than the other? Does it depend on the kind of setup that you have and the kind of products that you're selling? What's your take there?
I'll say profitability is pretty similar. I mean, I think some people get maybe more from lives because they don't pay their presenters as well, potentially. But generally, like obviously affiliates, you've got an additional commission that you need to pay to them. Some people go very aggressive on commission, but um, the better route really, in my opinion, is to actually like invest in helping them scale more, which is what we do. Um, so I'd more look at like what drives larger scale for brands. So, because the profitability is not too dissimilar. And that would really be affiliate. Like live shopping is really good and helps to drive like those bigger moments and consistency of revenue. But you have to physically go live to make the money. It's a little bit like having a retail store versus having e-commerce. Like if you don't open the retail store on a Sunday, you don't make any revenue. Whereas like as long as your e-commerce is there, it will work and you've got traffic. So essentially, like TikTok and Lives is exactly the same. And if you get affiliate right, affiliate's the thing that could drive you to like hundreds of thousands, if not millions a month. Whereas TikTok Live, like if someone wants to start there, like they'll struggle to do, over 100K a month just on live, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess both have pros and cons, right? And with live, it can be frustrating maybe that you don't reach the same kind of scale. As you said, it's more like a brick and mortar. But then on the other hand, if you have a fantastic store, let's stay with this example of brick and mortar, you know that it's at a great location. It's fantastic for foot traffic, then it's great to have that brick and mortar store, right? So if you have a very well trained live host and you know that they can really drive that revenue for you, then it might be more valuable than 1,000 creators that don't really resonate with your product and that you might not have trained correctly and enough to actually sell that product.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, that's the other thing, like affiliates, like people still think like gifting absolute volume and just pumping out basically shit on the platform is not really is beneficial and you'll have a viral video. And it used to work like extremely well. Like we would just mass gift like thousands of samples over like a month and a bit, usually a 6-week period. And something or a few of them would go viral and we might get up to like 100K, 200K in the first, 8 weeks. But then what we would find is like that would very quickly drop off and you then had the platform flooded of like poor content. So like we really go down the route of like high quality content now. And we have like hand selected creators we work with for different brands and, whether it's a deal led creator or it's more like brand awareness creator, we have a real mix that we then deploy across our strategies that then enable us to drive really strong revenue off the back of it because like ultimately it's it is your on everything, it's your awareness channel and it's your storefront, and you have to make sure you've got that high quality content. Where I think early days of TikTok Shop, and you can still work this way, but it was very much like, oh, well, TikTok Shop creative is just bad, and like, but it converts, so it's fine. But what we're seeing now with especially the larger brands we're working with, they really focus on like it has to be brand fit, and they are winning. And long term, it seems to have much greater cut through. And it also has like a bigger halo across other channels by sticking to like higher quality content as well. And then when you go into like discount period, obviously those deal led creators really perform. But day by day, like if you have too much like poor creative, like when you're not in deal days or like any sale period, they perform really badly because they still get served on the platform as like sale led content, but obviously the product's not on sale, so then it doesn't work near as well.
So interesting, I think, how all these different sales channels like Amazon in the past would go through these cycles of first being not sketchy, but selling certainly products that might not be premium at the very start. And then they might get a bad rep for that initially, but then eventually more reputable brands come on and the content gets better, as you just said, that is made by the affiliates. So over time, quality just goes up and up and up. And I'm going to be curious to see how far that can go on a platform like TikTok, where they pride themselves in not being Instagram in the way their content looks like. They pride themselves in really being UGC and not overly produced. But at the same time, you want something that looks good and that actually does convert. Do you see us close to the tipping point there, or do you think quality will just keep increasing because ultimately that's what converts best?
I think it'll keep increasing as like better brand. It's like every other platform, right? It's like if you think about like the way that content has developed over the last couple of years, maybe 3-4 years, is it's just going like getting better and better. Like people are now mostly shooting their social media content with cameras now, or like the DJI Osmos. A lot of like Facebook ads are, they have a level of high production in them. And I think again, like you don't need to be like polished, but even if you shoot it in like a high production environment, it's like live shopping now. A lot of our lives are like shot with cameras, high production, like they're in a set. And like, if that's the base, like it'll only just keep getting better and better in terms of that like output. So, you watch anything on YouTube, it's always very well edited, very well shot. And like, if you don't have that, you'll struggle to get, any decent views. So, I think TikTok will continue to develop that way, and ultimately it's an entertainment platform. So I think like the mark will just keep going up and up.
Joe, I know your focus is the UK. You're based there. You have offices there. You have your live studio there. But then you also have an office in New York. So I'm curious to hear more about your vision for your expansion there, going into the US. Obviously, a huge market and still somewhat underdeveloped. Do you see any differences in how the UK works as a TikTok shop market, how affiliates work, how customers work, or is it pretty much taking what already works in the UK and then applying it to the US for you?
So we've had a decent US business for the last, I think, 9 months or so. And I mean, I love it out there. Like the affiliates are really strong. Like a lot of the brands rely a lot more on affiliate than over here in the UK. So like, to give some context, like on average, UK brands will probably be about 60 to 70% affiliate, sometimes slightly less. Of their revenue comes from that. The other part comes from what they call self generated. So could be like from your own lives or your own videos or product card. And then in the US, it's typically like 90 to 95%, if not sometimes 100%. So, there's a lot more content creators, and they're very good at creating content that sells. There's a bigger ecosystem there. So yeah, it's very interesting world. But I think the other thing which is interesting about TikTok Shop in the US is like if you're launching typically in the US and you want to launch via Meta or Google or any of the sort of major ways of driving sales there is so costly when it comes to media and conversion rates, etc. So that normally requires like brands to burn a decent bit of cash to get set up and drive scale there. The interesting thing we've seen with US TikTok is as long as brands are happy to give stock, we can get quite significant scale with very limited advertising spend because we drive it through TikTok creative through the creators. Yes, of course, there's significant cost when it comes to gifting because obviously shipping is generally a lot higher there, like the actual just physical cost of shipping. But yeah, it works really well. It's a big growth area for us next year. We've got about 15 studios now, I think, maybe 18 studios in the UK that are used pretty much every single day. And then in the US, we're looking to do a similar model to what we've done here. There's a couple of strong agencies out there doing it already, but their model is generally like pretty good, but it's fairly expensive from what I've heard from a brand. So the brands don't really push it as hard. So we're going to look to try and do some level of challenger agency out there and really scale the live shopping side because also a lot of brand lives don't perform near as well. But we're doing P. Louise's US lives from here in the UK, which is a bit difficult with timing. But they're doing extremely well there. So I really think that like with our strategy to scale out there, like I think we'll massively we'll build out a big operation on when it comes to the live front from Q1 next year.
Yeah, that's super fascinating to see an incumbent like yourself and Somerce joining a market like the US where you're able to shake things up a little bit, maybe price-wise, but maybe also in the way you run lives and how you do production. Obviously based on a massive body of experience that you already have from your UK work. I was wondering, with the amount of studios that you have, how profitable that is for you as an agency, because I would imagine that brands, they all want to go live at the peak hours where everybody's on TikTok. Probably it's very difficult to run it economically viable, is it not?
Yeah, lives is pretty difficult. We see it as a long term play. I mean, we are profitable, and obviously our core business is like very good. So like we can like pull from different areas as well if needs be. Obviously, there's like if you're setting up, like obviously you've got the rent for a studio or the kit out. You've then got obviously the kit itself and all of that. You've got so there's a fair bit of capex that goes into obviously building those individual studios. And as you say, yeah, brands only want to go live potentially for a few hours in an evening, which makes it very difficult for it to work. We've got quite a unique model where like the way that we operate those studios and like drive like studio utilization and like quite a few of our brands do go live like a lot of hours a day. So they'll do like 8 to 10 hours a day, which then works pretty well. And they have their own studio that we've built for them. But it's not an easy, like that side of the business is not an easy one. We have got some big plans for next year because I think one of the issues as well that some agencies have faced in, especially in the UK, is on like that charge out rate of what they charge their clients. So like we've taken on a few brands and like an agency's charging, £100 an hour plus commission, but the brand's only making like £200 an hour. So like when you look at the economics for a brand, it doesn't then work. So we have a model that like we make sure it works for the brands, and obviously it also does work for us. But we have some big plans next year of how we basically are going to shift that to one enable brands who are smaller to get the outcome of what they want from an agency without necessarily needing that to be cryptic. And then the other is like obviously how you then drive ongoing, because the other issue is like presenters. Like there's not enough presenter demand right now. So like a lot of presenters are working across like many different brands, and that the authenticity from a brand side of things is they're not looking good whatsoever. And obviously, like users will generally say, "Oh, I saw you last night on X other brand," and like for us, that's not like a long term thing for us. It's like we need presenters. Like if you would never ever see anyone on Made by Mitchell or P. Louise be on any other account, you just won't, and that just has like that level of like authenticity that a lot of these other brands who are all using agencies, and we have this problem as well. A few of our brands do have exclusivity over their presenters, but generally they will work across different brands, which um, we're looking to adapt next year.
Yeah, that could be super cool to see a big agency like yours come up with new, novel ways of working with presenters, but then also finding maybe models that work better in terms of the economics for maybe smaller brands to try going live, to not see it as a massive expenditure right out the gate, and to then bring it to a new market like the US and maybe roll up the market to some extent there. Do you have plans to expand beyond the UK and US in 2026, or is that not on your radar right now?
Yeah, we've already got a French team who's based in Birlitz in the south of France. So we're doing pretty well out there. We've just hired someone in Germany. So we've got a few clients in Germany as well. And we'll continue to scale where TikTok is. I think one of the key things we're really focused on is obviously making sure we have like local bases, because I think that works significantly better. So that just takes like more time, and I think to do it, like one of the big learnings we've had is like we want to do like our full model in every country, so that's like lives and everything. Because a lot of obviously agencies are pushing into the space, but like the lives is hard, and I think if we can have bases out there for lives, like obviously it's a lot more costly for us and difficult to do, but I think that will set us up like good for the long term as well.
Joe, you're really in the weeds with TikTok Shop and social commerce. You work with all the different parts of it as well, which is not necessarily the case with all agencies. What are some pain points of social commerce that you repeatedly come across and that you really wish somebody would go out and fix?
Question. What do I think are the biggest pain points? I'd
What
say
sucks of your job every day, to put it more bluntly?
I'd say like it's very good, the world of social commerce. I think one of the key challenges at the minute, TikTok shop side specifically, is like they changed their ad platform to be like fully automated, which has a lot of pros, but equally has a lot of cons because it works on like a full blended ROI rather than like attributed. So there's not clear clarity of whether like those campaigns are actually driving incremental value, which we've been doing a lot of work on, and like testing different things as well. So that's definitely a big pain point when ad platforms are obviously trying to take control away, but not then giving transparency at the same time. Is always a big frustration. I think like control, like one of my key annoyances is that like there's a lot of like automation tools that got rolled out, I'd say in the last year for TikTok shop, which essentially
You mean
enable like
specifically outreach tools, or what kind of
basically,
automation?
yeah. So you can like message affiliates on like
Right.
mass and like through the messaging tool within Seller Center. But the problem with that now is like we hired a couple of affiliates to help like our business and like get like kind of insider knowledge from a like understanding from an affiliate side. And like they used to work extremely well, these tools, because obviously no one was using them, but now everyone's using them. There's not really that many restrictions to it. So like I could turn one on today and I could outreach to like 1,000 creators right now, but like you could do the same thing. The next person could do the same thing. And what that's basically meant is that like no creators are checking those inboxes, or no one who is actually good. And it's all just like overwhelming and not really useful. Where I feel like they should really invest in like the quality side of like finding brands you want to work with, like partnering with those brands, like almost like matchmaking sort of thing. But rather than brands being able to just spam you and try and gift you, I think is like a major thing that is frustrating, and like TikTok seems to be integrating more with like the automation side, which is just going to like basically like end up spamming more and more and more, which I just don't think is that useful. And some of the benefits, like we'll send one pages to every affiliate and like things like that, but really like they should just be able to build that into the platform. Like this is the brand's content brief, like, or content guidance. So we work quite closely with them on that. But I think there's different teams involved in like the app technology and stuff like that. I know it's very, very popular in the US. But I definitely think that would improve. I think they've just started to increase some restrictions on new brands joining. So like there's only certain amounts you can do, and like there's limits on sales you can make in the early days of TikTok, which again can be quite frustrating, like when you're launching a brand new brand. And I think if you don't have access, thankfully, obviously, we're a big agency, so we are able to like speak to our account managers and get restrictions lifted for other brands. But I think for some brands coming in who are new or young, and like TikTok used to be a great place to grow, I think they'll find that very difficult now to get off the ground without that. Yeah, there's probably a million others that just aren't coming to my mind, but generally, I think it's good. I think the other thing is like, I'm not just saying this because obviously it's competition, but I do think like obviously a lot of people are adding this as a service on, but don't understand the full complexities of TikTok Shop, and aren't necessarily like acting in what's the right word? Like responsibly, I'd say, when it comes to it. So they've like they've got these outreach tools. They're just like mass gifting, like no real understanding of the platform and what it takes to grow. And like we've taken over a couple of accounts recently that were with like other agencies who had just obviously like built a small add-on as a service, and had like have basically like completely destroyed the account because they've just gifted like 5,000 odd samples, and all the content is really poor. And now we're like doing a piece of like unpicking all of that work to then go again. And if you give the wrong signals to TikTok, that then gives like a major, like you'll struggle actually to get off the ground if you give bad initial signals. So there's a level of that, but I don't know how you'd ever get around that. It's just annoying.
I can see how that's annoying. At the same time, I think that's just the world we live in, right? And if agencies see that there's money to be made on TikTok Shop, I understand the incentive to add TikTok Shop as an add-on,
Yeah,
even if you
definitely.
don't fully understand it. And good for you if you then go and get to work with these clients because they're unsatisfied somewhere else, even though it makes your work a lot harder to then undo the damage that was being done already.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
mean, Somerce is so big now, and you're at the very forefront of social commerce and TikTok Shop. Do you, in some questions, throw your weight around a little bit and try to actually influence the course of where TikTok Shop is heading and social commerce? Do you have the possibility to do so in the conversations that you might have with TikTok directly?
Yeah, I mean, TikTok and TikTok ads, Jimmy Max, like we're quite lucky that we're like seen as obviously, well, we are number one in the when it comes to TikTok Shop UK, and also ads. We've grown our ad spend significantly last year, so like we're seen as one of those like rising partners or whatever. So that definitely helps. I think like we feedback quite a lot. Whether stuff gets taken on board fully, I don't fully know. I think you've obviously got the UK team, you've got the US team all feeding back to the mothership. But I think they definitely like, they seem to be pretty good. Like when you feedback, like I was feeding back some analytical issues, and like they're on that now. So that's super useful. And there's a lot of like promotional blockers where like you can't run two promotions at the same time on the same product, but like it would make sense that you could do that. So like you can't do like a buy more, save more campaign and then you like a gift with purchase at the same time, which just makes zero sense. And like you can't do a gift with purchase just on lives. You have to do it across the whole store. So it's like these different things that like are restrictions that don't really fully make sense when they've been rolled out. So they are definitely listening and will implement those. Whether more macro level, like, I mean, they're extremely like clever at what they've been building. So I'm sure they have big goals for next year that we're not even aware of yet. But we've seen a couple of things. We were in Dublin last week with a few people at TikTok. So
And exciting stuff for sure. I would imagine they're always good at coming up with new and novel things and cooking things up that drive things forward. Um, One other thing I wanted to just question you on is you've worked with James Charles on his lives.
Yeah.
How did that go as an experience? Because some people say it's difficult to work with actual influencers being the live shopping host. Other people swear by it. What's your take on it, and do you plan to do it more going forward with Somerce?
Yeah. So, I mean, creator lives themselves can be a bit like hit or miss how they perform. But I mean, James Charles is obviously like Painted UK is a huge brand who like he has a big following, but also the product's really good. So that definitely works because he also brings like a big audience, and then a lot of people like him. So like would swear by it for that brand. Putting influencers on other brands for live shopping is quite hit or miss whether it works. We have seen good results like when they bring traction, but we always would like pair the like influencer with a live host at the same time, so the live host can still sell, the influencer brings traffic. But yeah, it all just depends. I mean, influencer brands definitely are like still on the rise. I think there are a few cases where there's these companies launching brands for influencers, and I think the influencer isn't that involved in the process, and it's just their name, which I think is a bit like I'm not really a big fan of that. Like the influencer needs to like with Painted, James Charles is like so obsessed with it and like loves it and uses it every day, and like that's visibly his brand and his baby. Um, Whereas like obviously others have like launched like other brands and they're just clearly not that heavily involved in it and aren't part of that strategy. So um, yeah, I think it's just how it connects together and it's more based on the brand. I mean, obviously P. Louise is kind of an influencer in her own right now, Paige. And it definitely does work. Like when she goes on the live or she does her own live from a personal account to raise awareness, that definitely does drive um, high impact. So
Yeah, I think you said it perfectly there that really what works is having an influencer that doesn't just sell out to make a money grab as quickly as possible,
yeah,
but instead really stands behind the brand that he's representing and is in it for the long run, brings in his own feedback, it resonates well with his audience. Like all of these things need to come together. But if they do, then it's a fantastic way. And I'm sure TikTok Shop is a fantastic channel for those brands. I mean, we just saw Kim Kardashian do a mega live with Skims right on Black Friday or around that time.
it was so cool.
So I think that's gonna be out there more and more for the ones that actually pull it off and know what their audience wants.
Yeah, definitely.
Joe, was a pleasure talking with you. Fantastic insights, and I'm very much looking forward to 2026 and see what Somerce will be up to. What is the best way for potential clients, customers, or other interested people to reach out to you and learn more about Somerce?
Yeah, so the website somerce.com, SOMERCE.com. Feel free to drop us an email from there, or you can find me on LinkedIn as well. Just my name.
Fantastic. Appreciate you coming on.
Awesome.
Take care, man.
Thanks very much. Speak soon. Bye.